Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the same old Arsenal podcast. Hope you're all doing very, very well on this fine Thursday evening. Once again, I am joined by the fabulous JJ, and we're going to be unpacking Arsenal's 1-0 win at the GTEC Stadium last night against Brentford. And we're through to the next round of the Carabao Cup. Make of that what you will, whether it's a tournament you want Arsenal to win. You don't care about it too much. We are through, and it's another piece of silverware on offer. And we're also going to be taking a quick look ahead to the game on Saturday at the Vitality Stadium against Bournemouth. Playing a lot of teams in red and white and black at the minute, JJ. Is there a theme going on there?
Well, hopefully it's shifting some more of these kits for the club so that hopefully, we can get some more reinvestment in January on players, James. That's all I care about.
Absolutely. And I mean, first things first, we are in the midst of an injury crisis, if you would call it that. We seem to have a lot of injuries. We're not too sure how long-term some of them are. I mean, we had a lot of players out for last night's game, notably Sagar Sagar, Declan Rice. We already knew about the injuries to the likes of Yuri and Timber, Thomas Partey. They're the only two kind of longish term ones I can think of. But all these other ones, if we get them back, within the next fortnight, hopefully, fingers crossed we're at, nearly a fully fit squad again. But we still made 8 changes yesterday for the game in the Carabao Cup. And although some may say they wanted to see an entirely rotated 11, I think 8 changes is pretty substantial. And to go there and win with those 8 changes, I mean, it goes to show that despite the injuries, we have still got pretty good strength in depth, haven't we?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I've seen people say that there's 7. And I could only think of 6, James. So I don't know who the other person is.
6 changes?
No. They were saying about you talking about the injuries, and they were people. Sky had this whole thing about the 7 play. I'm like, well, your graphic is showing 6. I'm like, it's Timber, Partey, Martinelli, Trossard, Saka, and Rice. That's 6. I said, who's the other one?
Don't ask me, mate. I don't have a clue.
Who's the other? I'm like, who's injured now then? I'm panicking now. Is who's number 7? Part of me's like, the only one who weren't in the squad at all yesterday was Vieira. I'm like, oh, don't tell me Vieira's down as well.
No, it was good yesterday, actually, in the sense that, we got to keep some of the big boys at home.
Yes.
In Fabio Vieira's been an important player for us. We got to keep Saliba at home. And I think the players that we did keep in the side in Ben White, Gabriel, and who was the other guy? Ben White, Gabriel. Who stayed in from the weekend?
Nketiah,
yeah. Those are 3 guys that I'm pretty okay about us keeping in the side because, Ben White and Gabriel last season, they just showed they're absolute machines. Nketiah, I can't remember the last time he was injured. So, yeah, what did you make of the team? Did you think it was a good level of rotation that we saw?
Yes, and I'll tell you what I liked as well. I liked that he said to Ben White, no, you stay at right back, and Tomiyasu, you're going to play as centre back, which we haven't seen yet. And I thought that he did very, very well there, Tomiyasu. I know that he was my man of the match before I saw it flash up on the Arsenal had given him it. And I thought he had a brilliant game. I know that SofaScore and some of the others gave Jorginho the man of the match, but I thought Tomiyasu was brilliant last night. I thought defensively, James, I was very, very impressed. A bit like how I was against Crystal Palace towards the end after the red card. I thought that was a brilliant defensive performance. Again, I thought we did very, very well there last night. It's just the offensive game is still just that little, when you're not creating a bucket full of chances, when you do have these, gilt-edged chances like we do, got to be tucking them away. If I'm Nelson today, I'd be kicking myself. He should have made that 2. He should have scored that other one.
Yeah, and Smith Rowe had a great chance, didn't he?
Yeah, but I think people aren't saying enough about the save. I think that's a brilliant save from, is it Flecken?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I don't necessarily think that's poor finishing from Smith Rowe. I actually think that's a fantastic save.
Yeah, but let's talk about the defence quickly because we did make a few changes in that area of the pitch. And like you say, it was really resolute as it was in the game against Crystal Palace. To make those level of changes and come up against a Brentford side that's still, were basically unchanged from the weekend. I believe they only made 2 changes. They had Mbeumo, they had Wissa. It was definitely a good Brentford side. To make those changes that we did in defence, to bring in the likes of Tomiyasu and Kivior, what does it say about Arsenal's strength in depth in that department? Because I think Tomiyasu, especially this season, has been exceptional in every single game he's played. And I know he's been, few and far between, and we're talking about appearances off the bench. But yeah, I thought he was really good again last night. And if you look at his performance when he went away with Japan, immaculate in that game as well. And you've got to remember, he's still a very young guy. Like, I think he's 24 still. So do you think he's...
Yeah, I think he's 25, 26, actually. I don't know.
No, he's definitely not, mate. He's...
All right.
Hang on, let me Google this.
Yeah.
He's 24. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Spot on.
He's 24, soon to be 25, but this is a guy that's, coming into the absolute peak of his career.
He is definitely 20. He's not, it's not
Let's not go into that. Let's not go into that.
He's 25 until he's 26, James. That's how it works.
He's 24 till he's 25. But, I mean, to have a player of his quality, if he can get over the injuries, I mean, what an asset he is. I really think he's knocking on the door to get in the first 11.
Yeah, 100%. I think he's dependable, isn't he? You know with Tomiyasu that you can play him anywhere across that back four, and if you want him to do a defensive role where primarily be 1v1, win your aerials, get your tackles in, he can do that. But you mentioned it, and you are right as well, as per normal, James. When he's come on every time this season, he has been. That game against Man United, when he was inverting in and going in the midfield, he's bossing that. He's bossing them lot in the middle as well, picking out passes.
He's
he made
massive,
a great,
isn't he? He's a huge bloke.
He made such a good block to. I think it was for the Rice goal, wasn't it? To set up the corner beforehand. He started. He made the block. He stepped in, made the block, and put a pass in to get that move that won us the corner. So, it's things like that. Yeah, no, I can't moan at all. And I'll tell you something as well. The more and more I see Kivior, James, the more I like him. So I wouldn't begrudge him getting more minutes.
No, me neither. And I think, especially with Kivior, I mean, he played at left back, didn't he? And that's a position that Tomiyasu has played in as well. But to have two guys in Kivior and Tomiyasu, I know we wanted more in that department. I think we wanted one more, either central defender or right back, given the injury to Yuri and Timber. I mean, we would be so set if we had Timber. That's a frustrating thing. Our defense would be flawless. But to have those two guys, Tomiyasu, who can play anywhere across that back four, and Kivior, who I'm pretty sure can play anywhere apart from right back, to have those two, I mean, it's so good, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I thought beforehand with Kivior about how good his distribution was, James. And obviously he's not a small guy, he's a big guy. But I didn't know as much about his defending. Obviously, he's come from Serie A, so he's going to know how to play. He's definitely going to know how to play in defence, especially when you come from that league. You're just bred on it. But yeah, I don't think he made a pass last night that was like sort of. He probably did give the ball away, but he always he's never a sideways type of guy. Every ball's like, no, let's get further up the pit, like he wants to progress the play. And that I love. I love people that do that, James. That's more of what I want to see. I don't like this donut of shame, as we used to get called beforehand and everything. I want to see someone come in there and progress the ball. And he knows he's got a guy in front of him. Okay, Zinchenko, probably not the best defender in the world, but in terms of technical quality and passing, he's arguably one of the best in the club that we have. So he's like, I've got to step it up. And yeah, when you make, like you said, when you make wholesale changes like this, and okay, the second half we rode it a bit, but we got out. That's all you can ask for. If you were making the changes and the level in terms of defensively doesn't really dip, then yeah, you got nothing to moan about for me. I mean, the main problem, like I said earlier, is still with the offensive changes. They're just there's especially one big one.
Yeah, we'll definitely get onto that, mate. I think it's interesting what you say there about Zinchenko. Ironically, I think his passing in the past couple of games has been a little bit skew with. I don't think it was great against Spurs, and when he came on last night, I don't think it was particularly good. But like you say, we all do know that he's one of the best passers, if not the best, at the football club. But given how good Kivior's passing was last night, also given how good Tomiyasu's passing was, which I thought was immaculate, but taking into consideration we've already got Saliba and Ben White that can play the ball so well, be really interesting to see a back four of, say, White, Saliba, Kivior, Zinchenko, because they've all got the ability to play the ball. So that's a potentially exciting prospect that we could see further along. I'm not saying that's going to happen anytime soon because no one's displacing Gabriel, thank God. But if that was to happen further down the line, I mean, we've got such a young cohort of defenders that this can be an option. And I'm sure for Champions League games, you can seamlessly bring in someone like Kivior in place of Gabriel. And that's the beauty of having such robust and dimensional defenders. But one big talking point that we have to discuss, another guy who was brilliant with his feet last night, a certain Aaron Ramsdale came back into the Arsenal team. And I have to say, I was so impressed with his performance, mate. I thought he did everything I wanted him to do and more. And some may say this is an exaggeration, but I do really want to see him start against Bournemouth. I think he showed, he's got all the qualities and capabilities to do it. And it's just very contrasting to David Raya's performance against Spurs. And I know that Raya was great against Everton, great against PSV. But, if we're playing guys that are in form and we've got two great good goalkeepers, two great goalkeepers.
It works.
Sure.
It works. It makes sense in my head as well.
I'll hand over to you, mate. What do you make of the situation?
Yeah, I personally don't think he will start at the weekend, but I would not begrudge him if he did. There was only 2 instances last night. I think he played one out that he nearly got caught out on. But other than that, the other one was when after he made the really good save, the ball was still sort of bobbling in the box. And I've seen a video of it being highlighted as a positive, James, but to me it's a negative. He quickly turns around and gives it one of these with his arms as if to be like, have that, because they're swearing at him or what. They're giving him, pelters behind it. But I'm like, that ball isn't dead yet. Wait for the ball to be dead, then turn. Like at the end when he laid on the ball, I had no problem with that whatsoever. But I did see a lot of people on Twitter for me going, he's an idiot because he could have launched that ball back down there and it was an open goal because Flecken hadn't run all the way back. But they're like, no, that's the problem with Ramsdale. He's too much about the banter and not about the game. But I'm like, no, wasting the time there. The game's dead. As soon as he caught that ball, and ref was going to blow up. So I'm not gonna dig on him for that. But yeah, no, I would not begrudge him coming back at the weekend either. But I do think it's going to be Raya.
Have you got a preference out of the two of them?
I think Raya's the better goalie.
Do you? I mean, surely you've got some sort of sentiment towards Aaron Ramsdale.
I love him, James, but at the same time, sentiment for me goes out the window when I want to win, and I believe I can't help but not want the better player in there.
Do you worry though that, I mean, okay, let's take sentiment out of the equation, looking at it from a purely footballing perspective, that Arteta has maybe already made up his mind in the way that he did with the Bernd Leno, Aaron Ramsdale situation, in the Bernd Leno was taken out of the team after the international break following that horrific defeat to Man City when we lost 5-0. Ramsdale came in after the international break and was never displaced, apart from one game away at Aston Villa. Do you
and that was
worry?
Only due to injury as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Leno had a great game that day, has to be said.
He did. He was fantastic, yeah.
Do you worry about a similar situation happening with what we've got now? Because I think that'd be incredibly harsh.
Yeah. One thing I will say, James, is that Leno was arguably the shyest and most quietest German goalkeeper I've ever seen in my life. So when Arteta did what he did, I think Leno was probably he just sucked it up and accepted it. Whereas Aaron Ramsdale, for me, if it's anything to go by, character-wise, is not just going to roll over and let someone tickle his belly and tell him he's not going to be in. So I think, like how the other week, and I try and remember the games, James. I know we do these previews and I do the reviews and everything else as well, but they all just amalgamate into what goes on with my life, and I forget, mate. I've got a terrible memory. He played Eddie because he said, instead of Jesus, even though he was back, because he said, Eddie come to me and went, if you don't pick me today, boss, you're mental. After all that I've done in training, he said, didn't he? Arteta was like, yeah, he come to me. And that's what I think Ramsdale will be. I think Ramsdale in training, everything else will be like a dog with 2 penises, if I can use that phrase. And he'll be like, you can't, he won't accept being dropped. I don't think.
And he shouldn't after that performance.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that there might be more chances that Ramsdale comes back, definitely, than what Leno did. If Arteta's the thing with Arteta is, yeah, his mind may be set, and he is a very cutthroat man. Once you're out, you're normally out with him. But like what you said, I do believe possibly, as much as I don't have the sentiment as I want the better player in there, Arteta might.
Yeah, I
Which
agree.
is weird because he did say before the PSV game, "I'm going to play the players that got me here," and then it was Raya. So I was like,
Well, I think
mm.
we should all know at this point that we don't believe anything he says in his press
"Yes,
conferences.
yeah,
Just take everything with a not a pinch, a bag of salt. But there's a very good point here made by Pramod, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. Sorry if I haven't. Ramsdale should play against Bournemouth, and Raya should come back in for Lons and City. I think that's a very good
yeah,
proposition.
yeah." I don't see no problem with that whatsoever. If you look at the City game that we played against them in the Community Shield, especially with Havertz up top, it was very much a hit him long and then hold it up type play. And who who's brilliant at being a goalkeeper to smack a big target man forward, mate? Well, I've seen Brentford do that with Raya and Ivan. I'm not comparing Ivan Toney to Havertz before anyone even starts. They're in completely different leagues, trust me. But if you want a goalkeeper that can ping a long ball to someone to hold it up, then yeah, Raya versus City. If you're going to go with that game plan, then that's a much better way to do it.
And do you think that would be sensible and fair rotation in that they're both getting a good mix of games?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, cool. And hopefully Ramsdale at some point gets an opportunity in the Champions League, because I think he's probably dribbling at the prospect of that. I just hope it's not a
Yeah.
dead rubber. Like if he gets a chance after Lons, if he gets like Sevilla, I think that'd be
Mm.
fantastic. You know, can you imagine Ramsdale Sevilla away? Oh, I would love that. I think that'd be the perfect game for him. But before we move on, we've got a good question here from Yamara G. I mean, we're talking about squad depth. Where would you say we've got the most depth? Backline, midfield, or up top?
Yeah, it's just annoying. We never seem to have it all together. But yeah, I would say back line is probably our best that it's been in.
Really?
Yeah,
I
I think
wouldn't.
so. I think so.
I mean, I think that's probably where we've got the most quality in depth potentially. I mean, we well depends if we're including Cedric Suarez in there,
Well,
but I would.
because you can play centre backs in that position. Sorry, you can play our fullbacks as centre backs, or you can play centre backs as fullbacks with what we've got at the back now.
I suppose if
Whereas
you're including Timber in that, then yeah.
Yeah, whereas up top, I know that there's been times that Trossard has been on the right or he has been down the middle, but he's not as good as he is on the left. Me and you have the discussion where I think that Nelson's better coming off the right hand side. You think he's better coming off the left hand side. Well, he's proven to me at the moment he could probably play off either side now. He's doing really well. So that's it. For me, I think we've got more that can be more comfortable in various places in the back line than we do anywhere else.
Okay.
However, we are still, in terms of actual bodies, we're still one short, I think, as of a natural fullback. You know, sadly, the natural fullback that we should have kept is playing in Spain.
Yeah, or you know, again, Cedric Suarez, nudge, nudge, wink,
Yeah,
wink. But look, let's see if Royal Waters gets a chance. I'd love to see him given an opportunity. I was a bit
same.
disappointed he didn't get one last night, but you know,
Yeah,
we've got another game against West Ham in a month's time. Fingers crossed he gets an opportunity in that match. I would go for the midfield actually. Whether you say it's quality in depth or not, you know, I guess it depends on how you view some of these players. But Rice, Partey, Jorginho, El Neni, Fabio Vieira, Emil Smith Rowe, Kai Havertz, Martin Erdegaard. Obviously, some of those players are better than others, but we've got a lot of room for experimentation in there. But I also think that's part of the problem as to why we're not quite clicking yet. So let's move a bit further up the pitch, JJ. Jorginho came in that lone six role and you know, had a very good performance. Has to be said, I do still worry about him in games where we're going to get dominated. Hopefully that's few and far between this season, but you know, coming up against the likes of Man City, I wouldn't feel too comfortable with the midfield three that started last night. But you know, it was really important for him to get over his, you know, couple of brain fart moments against Spurs at the weekend, wasn't it?
yeah, and like I said, he was going to have the captain. I said on here, weren't he? He's going to have the captain's armband on, and he did. And yeah, he done his job. You know, with Jorginho that he's gonna tick a game over for you. Um, but like you said as well, the big problem is the mobility factor. And again, he's another one like El Neni. You can bring him in and he might give you 1 to 4 very, very good games, but you know that you cannot rely on him for a sustained period of time. Same as El Neni. And that's what for me, the big thing now is how serious is this Declan Rice injury? Because I'm more than comfortable with Jorginho being the 6 at the weekend, mate, against Bournemouth
I don't
away.
know. I'm not. Jorginho against
Well,
Philip Billing. I don't know.
yeah, I know. I know. I love Philip Billing, and I like Adams as well. I think he's a very good player. He's a very underrated player, but I'm not. I haven't got a problem with that. But against Lens and Man City, I do fear for Jorginho in those 2 games. Although
Well, I think Rice will be back.
Jorginho last season against Man City was arguably one of his best games that he had. Even though we lost it, I thought he was in the home game. I thought he was brilliant in that one.
Yeah, just a shame. Just a shame
Yeah.
we lost it. But let's talk about your best mate, Kai Havertz. Again, another divisive one, wasn't it?
We might get on as people. I just don't. At the moment, as a footballer, I've just got
That's
question
not what
marks.
you've told me off air, mate. You've told me you absolutely despise the man. If you saw him in the street, you'd spit in his face. I'm joking, of course. It's all in jest.
I wouldn't be able to reach. He's 6'4".
Of course you wouldn't. But look, I mean, he had another, like I say, divisive performance. I don't think he was bad by any stretch of the imagination. He should have had an assist.
Yes.
Absolutely should have had an assist for that, ball he put on a plate for Reece Nelson. So unfortunate in that sense. But again, not tearing up any trees, but slight growth in confidence. Perhaps are you feeling a bit more positive about his performance?
It's the body language, James, and I'm like, it's not going to rub. It's not going to rub with fans. I mean, some of the consensus. I mean, I saw it about Nketiah as well. Oh, he ran his heart out. If that's what you've got to use to justify a footballer, we are scraping the barrel. £100,000 a week for Eddie, and I think it's what £260,000 a week for Havertz. If he doesn't run, I'm going. I would be one of the spit in people's faces.
He's our best paid player, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
The least I expect for him is to run and work hard. That's the least. That's like me having someone talk about my job and go, well, he turns up every day. That's the minimum expectation that we expect as a fan of a footballer is, yeah, I hope they run and put some effort in. So to use that to justifiably critique the guy, I think you really are scraping the barrel. Let's use our eyes here. Yes, he should have got an assist. Yes, he had a few touches. I mean, as well. Oh, there was 6 corners that he cleared away. Okay, so we've spent £65 million on a left 8 that can clear corners out the box. Is that what we bought him for? We bought him because he was apparently a better option for goals and assists than Granit Xhaka was. At the moment, I haven't seen it. And in terms of Arteta as well, he's already displaced him from the first team. So his confidence was already shot. Well, his confidence is even more shot. But he can't get back based on Smith Rowe's performance last night and the way Vieira's been all season. How can you pick Havertz to start?
So what's his role in the team then?
I don't know, James. It's just it's not clicking, is it? I don't trust him enough on the ball compared to Vieira or Smith Rowe to do a job in that left 8 at the moment. But I'm like, do we keep playing him until he does something? It's just it's like the Maguire situation with England, James. Because I said it a few weeks back. When you become a meme, it's so hard. No, it's so hard to recover that back. And again, because Arteta's got to balance it from the point of view of that eventually it's going to go from the player and it's going to come to me for picking him. And then that's a whole nother box of frogs that Arteta's going to have to deal with, James. So it just spirals for me. I mean, there's no player in the team more I would love to get a goal than him. But
interesting question here from Pramod. Do you think we've misjudged Kai about what he is? I'm beginning to think he's Erdegaard's backup.
No, I think we judged him based on what he previously done in Germany. But he spent the last couple of years having God knows how many managers being played as a number 9, and he's got to readjust. And in terms of the position, I don't think he's got to. I saw people that were like, "Well, he's got to adjust." No, no, no. Come on, he's been in the league for nearly 3 years. He knows what he's up against. But I just think he's so bereft, James, that it's going to take an absolute miracle to get him back. I mean, I think he looks like a player, James, that potentially he might give us something in a game every now and then. A bit like what I said about El Neni and Jorginho a minute ago. He might give us something in a game here and then, but he's not going to sustain. I don't think he can sustain for a long period of time. And that's so difficult considering the outlay on the player.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're judging it off his Leverkusen form, I mean, that was a long time ago. We know he's had good moments with Chelsea. He scored in the Champions League final. He scored in the Club Cup, World Cup, whatever that's called. He's obviously got these moments in him. But for the most part, Chelsea, for 80% of his career, like I said in the preview for this game against Brentford, he was one of those players that whenever we played Chelsea, I was never fearful of him. And that's kind of the impression I get from opposition when Kai Havertz is in the team, because he doesn't really strike fear into the heart of the opponent. But there's got to be something there. There's got to be, to explain why Arsenal went for him. But not just Arsenal. Real Madrid were in for him. Bayern Munich were in for him. So there's obviously something about this guy that we haven't quite unearthed yet. And maybe it's just a confidence thing. But, as a footballer, you're going to have peaks and troughs. It's not going to be smooth sailing all the time. So can we really count on a guy that when the going gets tough is just going to go into his shell a little bit? So I do have concerns about the player.
Yeah, the thing is, James, again, like I said, you're watching Smith Rowe last night and you've been watching Vieira as well. And again, when we're creating so little and it's fine margins, you can't afford to carry. You're carrying the guy. I mean, we're still so early into the season, but it feels like it feels like the guy's a burden, James. And for us, clubs telling us that our trajectory is going this way. I'm buying into it, thinking we're going this way. I assume you are going. You're thinking we're going that way as well. You can't carry these people. You can't carry people.
Well, let's take a little look ahead to Bournemouth then. Would you be looking to start him in that game at the weekend?
No, not at all.
Who would you be starting instead? Fabio?
Yeah. Yep. And I'm looking at it, James, per the injury reports that have come out. I mean, Mikel's presser tomorrow is make or break for me.
Well, again, like we said earlier,
I know, but because the team that I've got in my head at the moment, per the people that are injured, is it's very different. Very different.
Okay. Well, let's talk about, just before we do get on to our predicted lineups for the Bournemouth game. Emil Smith-Rowe had his first start in God knows how long, and for 30 minutes he was just a joy to watch, wasn't he? Back to his best, created that brilliant opportunity for himself, just those driving runs that we've missed. That's what we want from Havertz. We want those driving runs, darting into the box, getting on the end of opportunities. Look, if he can start adding goals and assists to his game, he will nail down that left 8 role. It's a shame that he was blowing a bit at 60-odd minutes. But look, it's his first start in a competitive game in absolute forever. It's going to happen. I think the weekend, is still going to be too intense for him to get a start. But I'd like to see him get an opportunity. I'd like Arteta to view him as one of the viable options off the bench for, the first time in God knows how long. And then, could well be within a shout of starting the game in the Champions League. I really do believe that. Great performance from him. I will say just for 30 minutes before he did start to get a bit exhausted. But what did you make of ESR's return to the Arsenal first team?
Yeah. I was very happy as well. He played in a position that we all, I've been begging, haven't we, for weeks. We've said it on here for weeks. Get him in the left 8, Mikel. Get him in the left 8. And yeah, we finally saw it. And we nearly proved right. We were nearly proved right, weren't we, when he scored?
Was he left 8 or right 8 last night?
I think left.
And Havertz in the right?
Yeah. Well, to me, on what I was watching.
No. You're probably right.
Yeah. But you got to persist with him now. Arteta said, didn't he? I've got to rely on him more now because of the injuries. This is his time, and he's got to show me and everything. And he will deliver. And yeah, he got a bit leggy towards the end in the last 30 minutes, but that's to be expected. He hasn't played a lot of football. He's been there. He just hasn't been picked. So hopefully, with more minutes, more joy will come. We know what Smith Rowe offers, James. We know what Smith Rowe can do, and we just got to keep it going and get him in there, get him scoring, get him assisting.
Absolutely.
Because he's one of them as well as end product, which he's got. He's one of those that, do you know what? If you paid money, you could go home and go, well, I'm glad that I parted my cash to watch him play, because he's an entertainer. He's one of those as well.
And he works hard. Like, he doesn't look like the sort of guy that would make a tackle, but he does. Like, he wins the ball very high up the pitch. So,
exactly,
yeah, I love
James.
him on Smith Rowe. And I love his...
That's a great point, because that's another thing. When you're not creating a lot, you win a tackle up high and then give a quick give and go, anything can happen.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. That brings us on to our front three. And great question here from Emerson Cozier. What are your views on Sagar Jr.? I really hope I've said that right.
Yeah.
What did you make of his debut, mate? I have to say, out of all the youth products we were talking about in the preview, never had him on my list of players that would start.
likewise. But I should have done, because from what I was watching before it all kicked off and everything, I was like, oh, this is the guy that Twitter says is the Saka regen. They're like, yeah, he's just the Mark II Saka. He's just the younger version of Bukayo Saka. I felt for him. I did feel for him, because he got very. I mean, Hickey's a brilliant. He's a brilliant fullback for them, and he just, for me, he pocketed him really, James. If I'm being honest, he didn't have much of a chance out there really. It looked as though it was just too high of a standard still for him, but that's not a problem.
First competitive game, though.
Yes,
no blunders. Fairly tidy.
Exactly, and you got to be proud of the guy. I mean, I loved Odegaard at the end, where he was pushing him towards the fans as if to be like, no, go on, go stand there and have your clap, mate. Get up there. And yeah, I hope he continue. I hope he kicks on. I said it before with you, James. I'll say it again. I love nothing more, and the fans love nothing more than one of your academy players coming through and doing well. So I hope that he takes that experience back into the youth team and he kicks on. Maybe we'll see him again.
And I really hope that we get an opportunity to see more of the young guys, because Arteta, I really like to think that he will give opportunities. If we do stay in the Carabao Cup, maybe he'll try a new player each time. So it might not be Sagar Jr. Next time, it might be Ruel Walters. It might be Ethan Nwaneri. It might be Miles Lewis-Kelly. Opportunities, and we've got the players to do it. So, really, really exciting stuff on the youth department. And then, Eddie Nketiah, I think he just gave a classic Eddie performance, didn't he? He worked tirelessly. I thought he was a lot better than he was on Sunday. Obviously got the assist for the goal. So, yeah, really happy with his performance. What did you make of it, mate?
Yeah, again, he done better than obviously at the weekend. But there was that moment in the second half, James, and I see it from him a lot. If his leg was up, he'd have been sent off.
He gets very carried away, doesn't he?
He smashes into people quite recklessly. And I'm like, that's 2 games in a row there where you've been a very lucky boy. So maybe cut that out. I like the fact that he's committed to the press. But there's being committed to the press, and then there's being Eddie Nketiah committed to it. I'm like, where you've got that at about an 11 or a 12, scale that back to maybe a 9 or a 10.
Yeah. And moving on to our goal scorer, Reece Nelson. I mean, again, similarly to Smith Rowe, a much needed start for him. Thought he had a really good game. You messaged me on Twitter to say that he was having a fantastic game, so I couldn't quite catch the first 20, 30 minutes. But great goal. Took it really, really well. Shame he couldn't add another to it. But, it's the sort of performance of a guy that is getting more mature in his Arsenal career, evidently been in the club for a long time. And, I hate to go back to it. It should have started at the weekend for me. And if we're to believe that Trossard and Martinelli are out, he's got to be knocking on. Well, he's got to be starting. He's got to be knocking on through the door to get in that lineup for Saturday. What did you make of his performance, mate?
Yeah, no, that first 30 minutes, mate, was fantastic. Like I was saying to you, really lively, really aware into it, and again another one. Everything that he's doing is progressive. It's not negative. So yeah, give me that. Give me more of that, and I'll be a happy boy. So yeah, I was very impressed, especially with him. I mean, that second half, you could say we were on the back foot a lot. We didn't really, other than his one chance which he should have converted. He'll be kicking himself about that, like I said earlier. But yeah, he had a fine game. He had a very, very good game. He was arguably, in terms of our offensive players, the best one.
Yeah, I agree. Him and Smith Rowe, I thought that they were my two play. In an attacking sense, those were the ones that were making things tick over for us.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, great win away at the GTEC Stadium. Brentford is never an easy place to go to.
Nope.
As I said earlier, they made hardly any changes. They were looking to bounce back after a really poor result against Everton. And it's a really good defensive display from us in the second half. I think we dominated the first half. They dominated the second half. Amazing save by Aaron Ramsdale. Maybe a little bit fortunate with an offside call, but no VAR, not our problem. So yeah, take the win in the hat for the next round. West Ham away. Again, going to be another tricky one when you look at all the teams we could have drawn. That's again one of the more difficult ones. But look, Man City are out of it. And like we said in the preview, it's another opportunity for us to win a bit of silverware. So yeah, I hope we take that game as seriously as we did the one last night. And if we rotate in the way we did, I thought it was absolutely perfect. Very sensible rotation. But let's move on to Saturday, mate. Bournemouth away. Strange game. We won it comfortably last year, but it's not always been that, convincing, has it? I remember some really bad results. I've always got etched into my brain memories of Giroud's scorpion kick celebration when he made it 3-3. Or what? It was 3-3, wasn't it? When we came from 3-0 down.
Yeah,
God
Sanchez going mental at them all.
Well, Sanchez, Chamberlain. I just remember everyone pulling him back whilst he's, kicking his heels. Like, Jesus Christ, Giroud, like, now's not the time. It's reasons like that why I don't miss Giroud that much. Like, I don't get me wrong, I would have liked to have kept him, but at the same time, yeah, I'm not really a big fan of that. But yeah, how are you feeling about the game, mate?
Yeah, I'm always slightly confident. So, but yeah, no, I've got no real qualms. I think they're a better side now than what they were before. I think the manager that they've got there, he's very good at scalping big sides, especially even when he was doing it in Spain. I think he beat Madrid, he beat Barca, I think he beat Atletico as well. So he seems to set up really well against the big teams, and they've got quality in there. I mean, me, I know I love Philip Billing. I'm a big Philip Billing fan. Solanke, he's doing well at the moment as well for them. I think they've got is it Semenyo or something out wide for him? He looks like he's not bad. He looks like a tricky little player. So, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm confident, James. What about yourself?
Well, I mean, they're a side that, under their new manager, they want to play a certain way, and that way is very expressive. It's not on the back foot. I'd be very surprised if at home they try to soak up the pressure and hit us on the break. They really seem like a team that want to play a certain brand of football in an attacking sense. And I really do think they will stick to that at the weekend, which could play into our hands. I think it could be very similar to the PSV game, or it could be very similar to the PSV game. But Bournemouth away is always, it's one of those ones where I don't know how it will go. If it's anything like last season, I'll be buzzing. But somehow I think it could be a little bit more tricky whilst we're still finding our feet a little bit. And on that note, what sort of lineup are you hoping to see on Saturday?
So I'm basing it without hearing the presser on who's back and everything, James. Because I've got a feeling that maybe Trossard might be back, but I don't know. So if you're asking me to pick the team now, I would have Raya in goal. The defence, obviously, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko. With Rice potentially injured, I'm putting Jorginho in the 6. Then I'm going to have as my left 8, Emil Smith-Rowe. I'm going to have Odegaard as my right 8. I'm going to put Nelson on the left because Martinelli and Trossard are still out. Jesus up front. And I'm going to play Fabio Vieira as my left-footed right winger, like he did in pre-season when they let Saka have a bit of a rest. And I think he's good enough to play out wide and put the ball in there for other offensive players to do well. But I'm probably going to get that completely wrong, James, because he's going to put Havertz there instead of Smith-Rowe. And he's probably going to put Jesus as either the left or the right player. And he's going to put Eddie up top, isn't he? So it's beautiful in my own mind and my own head. But yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea, mate. And I think there was a game not too long ago where Fabio Vieira came on for about 20 minutes on the right wing, and I thought he played very well there. So I wouldn't have an issue with that if Saka is to be out. But my only worry with that lineup, as you were reading it out, it does feel very Carabao Cuppy. And I don't mean that in a harsh way, but that's a lot of injuries, isn't it? You know, it's not a team that I can say hand on heart, I know that's going to work like that.
Yeah.
That would be a very...
I'm praying at least Trossard's back.
I think one of them will be. I think
as much as I like Nelson, I would feel more comfortable having Trossard there as well. Just in case.
I think Declan Rice will be back.
I hope so.
I'm fairly confident of that. I'm not sure on Saka, and to be honest, if he's not 100%, then I wouldn't risk him.
Yeah, same.
But yeah, I'd love to see Reece Nelson start, irrespective of the Trossard Martinelli thing.
Yep.
I think Nelson deserves a start.
If Trossard was fit, I would still have Nelson start ahead of him and have him on the bench.
Yeah, be the same for me as well. I think he's earned this start.
Same.
And
likewise.
Jesus through the middle, it has to be, doesn't it? We can't be shoehorning him and Eddie into the same team.
No, again, like we mentioned, they're very, very big team, big boys, and you want Gabby there with his back to goal. Hopefully, bring a few of them out, and then get your Nelsons and your whoever out wide in behind, mate. Get some goals.
Lovely.
We want some goals, James.
We do.
We want some good goals.
After the PSV game, it's just got me really wanting more results like that. Just a nice 3-0 win. Give it to me. I want it. But I don't think it's going to be... I really don't think it's going to be that simple. I could see it being another cagey, scrappy 1-0. I really hope it's not. But I just... Yeah, I'm like you. I just want to see a convincing performance. And then, another one against Lens in the week. And then it's City, isn't it? So, exciting times. Slightly scary times with the injuries. I think the only change I would make to your lineup is I would potentially really like to see Ramsdale in goal. I love the guy. Got a lot of sentiment for him.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Yeah,
like I said earlier, I've got no qualms if he picks Aaron Ramsdale instead of Raya. No qualms whatsoever. But I do think Raya's the better goalkeeper. So if Raya starts and he doesn't, it won't bother me.
No, I mean, I'll be happy with either, but I just think Ramsdale, I do think he deserves it, to be honest, after what was a shaky performance for Raya in the derby, what was a fantastic performance for Ramsdale last night. Like I said before, if we're going on form, it's got to be Ramsdale.
Yep.
Okay, and last point I was going to mention, we can't drop points, mate. We really can't. I know that, irrespective of what you thought of the Tottenham game, we've played 9 games this season, won 7, drawn 2. If you told me that's how we were going to start the season, I'd probably be like, yeah, that's fine. Like, that's more than fine. That's great. It's just the character of some of those wins hasn't been entirely convincing, which is why I think some of us are quite concerned. But Bournemouth away, when you're coming up against City, who, they're out of the Carabao Cup, but they've won every game in the league so far. If we were to drop points against Bournemouth and then lose to City, I don't even want to think about it like that. That's the title kind of, you don't want to say gone, but it's, it wouldn't be looking good, would it?
No, it's not looking good, Brev. No, I agree.
No, so we've got to win this game, don't we?
Yeah, it's fine. We'll win 3-1. Don't worry.
We win this game and we beat City. I mean, God, can you imagine that going into the international break?
Well, it just spins, doesn't it? It's the life cycle of being an Arsenal fan, James. You think we're going this way, and then it completely does. It completely spins back round. So
yeah, I know people are losing their heads about being 4 points behind City, but God Almighty, like at this point in the season, that doesn't mean a thing. I would worry about going, because if we lost this game, and City went 7 points ahead, and then we lost to City and we were 10 points behind, then I'd start getting very concerned about that.
Anything more than 9 points behind, you ain't getting it back.
No, that's my worry.
They're that good, and sadly, I know they're Amanda's second team, but yeah, Liverpool are looking tasty. So if you get within between, if they've got a 9 point gap, either of them, you ain't making it up.
Yeah, and I do.
And that annoys me because I hate Liverpool. So
well, me too. I just believe if we're gonna do anything in terms of the title this season, we can't lose that game at home to City.
No,
exactly. If we draw it, if we get 4 points from our next 2 games, won't be ideal. Also, won't be the end of the world. And I'd be, if you would tell me that right now, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. So to still be 4 points off City, if we peak at the right time, that'll be fine.
You get 6 points. You beat Bournemouth, and then you beat Lens or Lons, whatever you want to call them, and then you get a draw at City. That's a great week.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy with that. It is at home though, so I do want us to win that game against City at home. But look, let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's Bournemouth at the weekend.
Yeah.
Score prediction for the game, mate?
3-1.
3-1 to the Arsenal, and
come on.
I think we'll keep a clean sheet. I'm going to go for a repeat of last year, actually. I'm going to go for 3-0. I think if they come and try and play the way they have done so far this season, they've already been dismantled by a few superior teams. I think their manager is very dedicated to that way of playing. So I'm going for a 3-0 win. And on that note, we'll leave it there. JJ, thank you as ever, mate.
Thank you for having me on. Much obliged. And thanks everybody in the chat.
Yes, thank you all for tuning in the chat room. Let us know your score predictions in the comments below. Subscribe to the Same Old Arsenal on YouTube. We are back on Sunday evening at 7:30, I believe. And we'll be discussing the game against Bournemouth, which is hopefully going to be a 3-0 win, as I say. And as I say, thank you all for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all the various audio platforms. Make sure to follow the lovely JJ across social media at LLCoolJames91. Subscribe to the James Johnston YouTube channel. And we will leave it there, guys. Up the Arsenal. See you later. Bye-bye.